Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about what do I talk to my ex about?
It can be so hard when you start to talk to your ex again. You start to forget everything that you would possibly talk about before in the past.
Yeah, you really do. You get to a place where you're so stressed and you get so stuck in the breakup dynamic that you're no longer yourself with them. And all you want to do is talk about it, and it overwhelms people. So you have to be very careful when you start talking to an ex again, because it can be overwhelming and they could just want to run. And I saw this happen this week with a guy I've done multiple calls with. His ex reached out and he was so hurt and angry and upset and anxious still that everything he interpreted was through this hurt, and everything gets blown out of proportion. Yes. Yep. You know what I'm talking about? So it's like something small angers him. She had wanted to give a family member a gift card for an event, and he was upset about it.
And I see a lot of passive aggressiveness too in these initial conversations with an ex, because there's so much that you're harboring inside that you've wanted to say, and you still feel like you can't fully be transparent with them. And so it comes out in really weird ways, and you start saying things that you don't really mean, and it just becomes a whole mess.
Absolutely.
So we figured we would just do this video to talk about some of those things that you can do initially when reconnecting. And not just about specific words you can use. We're not going to give you some type of magical key or password to get your ex back, but more of the attitude and the spirit that you want to have when reconnecting.
Yeah, and it's just really important that you're aware of your hurt, because if you're hurting, everything you say is likely to be blowing things out of proportion, making things bigger than what they are, being extra sensitive about anything they tell you, and those conversations will spiral out of control very, very, very quickly. You have to do the work. You have to work on yourself in no contact. If you're not, don't be surprised when you are a mess in front of your ex again. It takes a lot of emotional self-control to be present with them, and like you did in the beginning. Really, when you were confident and relaxed and you weren't so scared of losing this person. So what you talk about and how you talk about things and the conversations with that person, it's really important to reconnecting with somebody, right? And it's important that you're not overwhelming, that things are a bit light. I know it's hard because everything inside you is like, I want answers. Are we back together? Can we fix this? I want to talk about the breakup. What went wrong? I know that feeling. I used to feel like that too. I used to think that's what you had to do. Let's have to just talk about it. We just talk about it.
And what's interesting is a lot of therapists nowadays will even, support that of after a breakup, you need to talk with your ex, you need to send them a letter. And typically, yes, communication is best to be able to talk about your feelings, their feelings, but after a breakup, the dynamics are so different. It can be really, really hard for somebody to empathize when they're also trying to separate from you. So this is why we talk so much about being able to process your emotions, being able to self-soothe, and relying on other areas for support.
And that's a good point, what you just said about separating from you. So I want you to pay attention. This is important. When somebody's trying to separate from you, they're not going to be trying to do things to reconnect with you. Not major things, not ultimately repair, because they're still in the process of separating. So that's why we're telling you, don't reach out. If you reach out and break no contact, they may reply, but you're likely going to get that small talk, awkwardness, superficial conversation, and you're going to say, why did I do this? Because it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I sent them a happy birthday message. How'd it go after that? They didn't really say anything. And now we're not talking, and now I feel worse.
Yeah. And this is why it is so powerful to allow them the opportunity to initiate, for them to have the say of, okay, I'm ready to talk with you.
That's right.
On some level.
So the timing is important in when you're going to communicate and what you're going to communicate about. Because if the timing is off, they're not going to want to reconnect. They're going to be pushing away. They're not going to be trying to have any deep, meaningful conversations and connections with you. So you've got to think about these things, because this is all a part of the process of naturally getting somebody back in a healthy way, working on your issues so you don't lose emotional self-control when they come back, getting dramatic, upset. It becomes intense. I mean, I could just think of what happened this week with this one guy that I've done several calls with, and he's like, he feels terrible because he has been working on himself, and even though he's so hurt and sensitive about her breadcrumbing him that he just lost it and even saw positive things as a negative thing.
Yeah. So to be clear, this video is going to be about when your ex reaches out to you and initiates conversation and how that communication starts off. The first thing that we want you to note is content. What is your ex really telling you? What types of things are they talking about? Are they updating you on their life? Are they trying to get the conversation to go a little bit deeper and more emotional? Are they asking questions? Do they seem interested in you? A lot of times, as Craig is saying, you can get so caught up in your emotions that you don't even realize what they are saying. So take a minute to recollect your own feelings and revisit what they are saying.
And how do they usually reach out?
Exactly. We are assuming with the way this video is laid out is that most of this will be through text, but we also do realize exes can call. You can run into an ex.
Oh, yeah.
They can show up. So there's many different ways that an ex can try to communicate with you again. What they're saying, the content, can give you insight as to where they are at emotionally. If they start out with an indirect direct approach, meaning, they're not saying I miss you, or how are you, or what are you up to, or showing some genuine curiosity about your life, but rather, oh, I forgot my
sneakers.
My sneakers, or my scarf at your house.
Oh, they send you a picture of your cat. I miss your cat.
Yeah.
I remember this little fluffy fellow.
If they're
What?
If they're sending you more indirect directs, that is some insight into where they're at emotionally. They are not ready to be direct yet.
Yep.
And so you have to consider the content.
You don't want to overwhelm that.
Right. In line with this, are you missing out on the meaning of what they are saying? So for those of you who are more anxious, you might be reading their message through that lens of, this person is ultimately going to leave me again. I need to lock this down right now or else it's gone forever. And that can cause you to miss what they were trying to tell you. For those of you who are more avoidant, sometimes your ex will open up to you and try to deepen the conversation, try to be vulnerable with you, and your avoidance, you're not wanting to take the conversation deeper, or fear of what might happen next, can cause you to miss the meaning and to miss, oh wow, they actually do want to connect here. So be mindful of how attachment style plays into how you interpret your ex's messages to you.
If you're hurting, there's a high probability that you're going to misinterpret what they're saying. And you look at your messages. Go back and look at your messages. Put yourself in airplane mode first, so you don't accidentally message them. Go back and look at your messages and look at how dramatic you were being.
If you were being dramatic.
If you were being dramatic. But many of you, if you're honest with yourself, you'll see some drama in there, right? It happens, because you're hurting. But you have to consider a lot of things, like how long have you been talking with them? Like, are they just initially messaging you? Or are you chatting here and there for a while? It's important that you are considering these things. You don't want to overwhelm them. One of the big mistakes that I see is the Tetris messages that look like the long block.
Oh my gosh. When it says read more, you have to click to open the whole message. Oh my goodness.
And the guy that I was just mentioning before, he sent me the messages, and they were long text messages and saying, oh, I can read between the lines. He said that a few times, and I'm like, no, you didn't read these correctly. Like I said, in his case, the ex was actually trying to do something nice, and he still misinterpreted it as something negative.
And sometimes it can be the ex giving you more insight into why they broke up with you.
Yes.
Sometimes it can be, well, I have this going on in my life, and I just wanted to update you on this major loss that I had. And then because you're so focused on repairing and reconnecting, you say something that's related to the relationship or wanting them back, and they're saying, well, did you even hear what I said? This is what I'm going through.
Yeah.
So don't forget about those skills of empathizing and validating. Those are very, very important.
Don't be so quick to believe you know the answers. I talk to so many people that are absolutely convinced they know their ex and they know exactly what they were doing, and they're misinterpreting things because they're so hurt. Okay? When you're hurting and you're sad and you're scared and you're anxious, you're not going to see things clearly. And I know because I've done that before in the past too. So you have to be aware of these things.
Yeah. You were talking about overwhelming them, which is why that timing piece is very important. If you are having these long drawn out conversations with your ex, you are likely to overwhelm them. You're likely to overwhelm yourself. So remember to also keep it brief as far as time. Like Craig was saying, one of the big mistakes we see is hearing that you and your ex have been texting daily or hourly for the last week or two. That is putting all of that information out there that could be communicated in person, that could be communicated at a later time where you can connect on a deeper level.
And so what are you supposed to do? We say this all the time. You're ultimately supposed to set up a date, which that guy that I mentioned, he's the victim in this video apparently.
Oh, sorry, guys.
He's a really nice guy. He'll be happy that we're talking about him, I think. He actually, she offered to see him and go to dinner with him and or do a FaceTime call. Well, which one do you think he picked? The FaceTime call. And I was like, no, you're supposed to set up a date. You got to set up a date. And so ultimately your goal is to get in front of your ex and set up a date with them to have some fun and have a good time. It's very different reconnecting with somebody when you're with them and you're having a good time than just messaging them or texting or even phone calls.
Right. And on the psychological level, when we're talking about human bonding, those other aspects that really help to form those deeper bonds really is eye contact, really is touch, being physically present near each other. So those things can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. And when you're on the date, you have to be ready to listen to what they're going to say. And it's not going to be easy. They're probably going to say things that upset you, or they may even give you reasons why you shouldn't get back together. If you fight them and argue, it's probably going to make things worse. You want to at least be able to listen to those things and maybe validate them, which we talk a lot about in the creative healing course and in the workbooks, because you really got to show them that you understand and that you're not trying to manipulate.
Yeah. The other thing that you want to be mindful of also in person is, once again, the content, as Craig is saying, but also avoiding that type of small talk. If your ex is ready to take the conversation deeper and you are not, that can create them to feel like, okay, what am I really getting out of this meeting? So just be mindful of where your ex is at emotionally. And the same is true vice versa.
Yeah.
If you notice that your ex has capped out emotionally and, is not engaging in the conversation or is not really going deeper with you or really wanting to talk about those questions, don't force. Just notice, okay, I realize that, you're kind of backing off now. Not everything has to be solved in one day and one conversation.
Yeah, the timing is just off at that point. And that's why we say let them reach out to you. The timing is going to be a lot better if they're reaching out than if it's on your terms.
Right. And in that case, shift over to a safer topic. A huge tip that we talk about quite often, I think, is showing curiosity in a partner. So talking about those things that you are curious about them with. And I'm not saying, are you dating someone new?
Yeah, no, don't do that.
But I mean curious in the way of, what have they been up to in their life? What have they learned that's something new? Have they been interested in any new cool hobby? Have they, has something changed in their social life with their friends or with their family? So showing that curiosity, that genuine curiosity, not out of your own, I've been dying to know this for months, but more so, how can I show them that I'm interested in them and care for them still? Absolutely.
A sincere, genuine interest is always the way to go when getting to know somebody or reattracting an ex.
Exactly. I do want to make a comment about being breadcrumbed, because I can already hear a lot of you in the comments saying, well, I talked with my ex for this long and it never went anywhere. So we don't want you to be so afraid of being breadcrumbed that you reject everything that your ex says at the very beginning too. So when somebody's being breadcrumbed, it's normally very superficial messages over time. So depending on your situation, this can look like months, this can look like longer.
I want to say something, but it's about that guy again.
Is it?
It is.
Oh.
He was getting upset because she was breadcrumbing him. He felt,
Was she actually?
there was some breadcrumbing earlier, months ago, but she seemed to be showing more of an interest to actually wanting to see him in person.
See.
But he was still so upset that he had been breadcrumbed that he lashed out about the gift card and about other things.
Yeah.
And so breadcrumbing, we don't want people to be breadcrumbed, and at some point you might have to set that boundary up. But in the beginning, it's okay if there's a little bit of it. We just don't want it going on for a long time.
Right. And you also want to be able to set your intentions. If you're having this small talk and, your intention or your ex's intention is, oh, we're just friends, we're just becoming friends, then that's not in your best interest if what you want is a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
So set those boundaries, make those intentions clear if you do feel like you are being breadcrumbed, but also don't set those boundaries in a bitter way or in a mean way or in a way to push someone else away.
And if you're hurting, you're likely to do it like that.
So just be mindful. Communication after a breakup is almost always confusing. You're always trying to interpret what your ex is saying. You're hoping that you don't come across a certain way, so you're often really, really mindful of what words you're using, and if you're using too harsh language or if you're not saying enough. Use your best judgment in these situations, and of course we're always here to help you and to kind of guide you through some of those things based off of our experience and expertise.
Yeah, we see a lot of patterns and we hear a lot of the same things, so we can help you interpret those things when you're going through it. Because when you're hurting and you're sad and you're anxious, you're likely going to see through things through fear and it going poorly, as opposed to even when the signs are positive. It's easy to mistake positive signs as negative when you're hurting that bad. All right, so hopefully this one's been helpful to you. And of course, if you want to get our help personally, you can do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. And Coach Victoria is also available for Skype coaching.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this one. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.